It's about the I got to say, it's the stupidest thing in sports.
Gets the ball, gets back, pulls up for the win. Got it! Detroit basketball.
Oh, Holloman looks the clock. Half court for the win.
Oh! The Lions go for it. The Vikings bring it in. The pass is a touchdown to give.
Javi Baez homered earlier. First one in the air, deep left field again. Yes, Tigers win. Javi is unstoppable.
This is BS Sports.
And away we go. Welcome one, welcome all. You know, I went into this show and I thought, you know what? It should be a pretty casual show, right? You know, talk about the Super Bowl, you know, maybe talk a little Michigan State over the weekend, you know, even maybe talk about the Red Wings with an impressive win on the road last night. You know, I thought maybe even preview some of the trade deadline, what I want to see the Pistons do. You know, I thought maybe that was going to be the focus of the show, was basically anything other than the Pistons trade away Jaden Ivey. I'm just saying. Like, you're this is guessing the news. Pistons trade Ivy. Red Wings beat Colorado. Wow. You know, other than the Tarek thing, I'm not going to talk about it until there's an actual till it's done and we can sort of evaluate it. But this is basically yes. You know my show so well, Detroit fan. What can I say? But look, okay, let's just jump into it because it's the news of the day. Earlier today, if you hadn't seen it. The Detroit Pistons trade away Jaden Ivey. The full trade from Shams Charania, Minnesota and Detroit have agreed to a multi-team deal that sends Jaden Ivey and Mike Conley Jr. to the Bulls and Kevin Harter and Dario Saric to the Pistons. Detroit also receives a 2026 first-round protected swap from Minnesota. So I don't know the details of that swap, whatever. So you get potentially a first-round pick and you get Kevin Harter for Jaden Ivey. And I want to start by just saying this tells me everything I need to know about how the league views Jaden Ivey. Because for a lot of Pistons fans, for a very long time, pretty much since he was drafted, everybody was saying, you know, this guy is legit. This guy is, you know, John Morant next version. This guy is Derrick Rose, whatever. And it just wasn't developing. And here we go. This is good. Thank you. Minnesota pick is protected 1-19. Detroit can choose if they want to swap or not. Okay. That's fine. I guess. Minnesota's pretty good this year. I don't know if they'll end up in that swing of things. So we'll see. Especially if they trade for Giannis, which is a possibility. But anyway. The fact that this is what the Pistons got for Jaden Ivey tells me exactly what I need to know about Jaden Ivey and how he's viewed in the league. Because as fun as he was even last year, where he was showing that he had some potential, and even as fun as he was the years before, he just does not look like the same player. And the fact is, we were in a bind. We were either going to have to pay him an exorbitant amount of money to be a player that he might not ever be again, or we're going to let him walk. So Trajan Langdon, I think in a very savvy way, made a very smart move and said, you know what? We got the best record in the Eastern Conference. We need three-point shooting. And Kevin Huerter is a career close to 40% shooter from three. He's basically, even if you think Kevin Huerter stinks, okay? Even if you think Kevin Huerter is a bum and a loser, okay? He is going to do more for you shooting three than Jaden Ivey is this year. It's just a fact. Like, all year, Jaden Ivey has done nothing shooting from three. And even if you want to say, well, he's having a bad year this year, again, who do you think has more of a chance to, with that change of scenery, or keeping that change of scenery into account, what do you think is going to have a bigger impact on winning? Kevin Huerter right now going to a new team where we have seen that he has definitely a lot of possibility to get red hot. We saw it with him on the Kings a few years ago and on the Hawks a few years ago. Or Jaden Ivey, who is a mystery. like Jaden Ivey could turn out to be a pretty good player. But when you're getting outplayed by Dennis Jenkins, who was a G leaguer last year and this year, that is your organization telling you and the NBA showing you you're not that guy, or at least you're not that guy right now. Now, the other thing I want to say on this is, as much as I have just kind of dogpiled on Jaden Ivey here, I really like Jaden Ivey. He was a Detroit native. His mom played for the Detroit Shock. His dad played, or it was either his grandfather played for the Detroit Lions. He was a Detroit guy. But that tells me a whole lot about what this organization is about. And I compare it to the Detroit Red Wings, who, while they're doing very good, one of the things that the Red Wings seem to have this weird obsession with is they want to bring in guys from Michigan. You got Alex DeBrincat, you got Dylan Larkin, you got Andrew Kopp, you had Jeff Petrie for a little bit. I'm not saying that it's bad to want to have some of your hometown guys. Those guys are really good for culture building, and fans love them. But when you're not performing, you're gone. We don't care if you went to U of D Mercy, if you went to if you went to Wayne State or Michigan State. We do not care. In the words of Coach Tomlin, we do not care. He's just, if you're not good enough, which Jaden Ivey just simply wasn't this year. Well, look, we don't know how long we're going to be running the Eastern Conference. This could be our one shot. As unpopular as that might be, this could be our one opportunity to really make a run for it. We know that Tyrese Halliburton's going to be coming back, at least next year. We know that Jason Tatum is going to be coming back potentially this year. The Knicks are not an easy team. And they could very well make a move here. We have to understand that you don't win. While you can win championships in the future, you can only lose them in the right here and now. It's just, you can't keep bargaining on this player is going to turn into a superstar. Look, Jaden Ivey was taken 5th overall pick. Okay. Kate Cunningham is an MVP candidate. What is Jaden Ivey? He's not even an all-star. The guy who was drafted after him in the very same draft is an all-star in Jalen Duren. He hadn't developed into an all-star. He hasn't developed a shot. He just got off of an injury. He's going to be a free agent next year. There was no world where unless he just went off in the second half of the season and became, Jaden Ivey of last year before the injury, there was no world that we were going to keep him. So we might as well make that move right now when teams might be more desperate. Look, we don't know if by the end of the year he was still terrible. He would have just walked. This was our best opportunity to get some value out of Jaden Ivey and bring in a player who can help us right now. In my mind, I think this trade tells me that Trajan Langdon and JB Bickerstaff are not afraid of, quote unquote, breaking up the core. If you want to call Jaden Ivey a part of the core, he might have played himself out of that. But they understand that, look, in the NBA, the only thing people are going to care about, in all sports leagues for that matter, is did you win a championship? And this, to me, while I'm not saying this is a championship caliber winning move, Kevin Huerter is a good player. He's not, this is not like trading for Rasheed Wallace. But he definitely helps you win a championship potentially. I mean, if you're in a spot in a playoff game and you need a big time shot, I think Kevin Huerter could make those shots for you. As much as Duncan Robinson can make those shots for you, or Cade Cunningham, or Tobias Harris. Sure. This guy is going to help you, and he's going to get better with Cade around him to help space. There have been plenty of highlights over the last couple of weeks where Cade has the basketball. He goes to drive. Every single defender goes on Cade. With Kevin Huerter on your team, that's just not going to happen. They're going to have to respect that spacing. They're not going to let him go that open. So either they're going to, let him take a wide open three, which he can hit, or they're going to leave Cade an open lane for him to drive to the basket. I think this is a good move. If this is the only move, I can understand some fans' frustration. But I think this is a good move. I think this tells me that this team is serious, that they view themselves as right now contenders to win the NBA championship. And that's exciting. I can't believe, like, every trade deadline for all the other teams, I can never say anything other than, well, I guess they trust their guys. You know, this is like an actual move that is somewhat exciting. So, you know, hopefully they can go out and show why they're that good. Look, right now, they're beating the Nuggets here pretty good. You know, that's one of the best teams in the Western Conference. We'll see. Trade deadline is this Thursday, I believe. Yeah, this Thursday. I don't know exactly what time. So Pistons still have time to make more moves to add on. You know, I'm sure even guys like Tobias Harris or Karis LeVert, I'm sure that those guys are potential pieces that they might think about moving if they want to add some more right now talent to this team. But it's an exciting time, and I understand the immediate emotion of you love Jaden Ivey. He's from here, and he was, you know, he's a beloved fan favorite and all that. But I think long-term thinking and championship team thinking, I think this is a great move for Detroit. I really do. Meanwhile, JB Bickerstaff just got called for a technical foul. He's got to be the most teed up coach. That's why I love him. All right. Let's take a look at the chats here. Detroit fan, I'm going to get through some of your picks. Say the T-Wolves get the 21st pick and the Pistons get 30. Pistons can swap picks, so they get 21 and Minnesota gets 30. Okay. I see. So if they're outside of the 20, okay, that makes sense. I was a big Ivy believer going into the season. I was disappointed he couldn't get things back together, but this needed to happen. The Pistons needed to address three-point shooting, and Ivy would give the Pistons more value than trading Dennis Jenkins and Marcus Sasser. Ivy's a free agent at the end of the season, so possible he doesn't stay in Chicago, especially if he doesn't improve. Man, that'd be crazy. I mean, the NBA draft needs to figure itself out a little bit, because the fact that a guy drafted in the top 10 or in the top 5, rather, like a lottery pick, right? Like, the fact that guy's just going to walk in free agency after getting traded too, that's just crazy, man. Shout out Troy Weaver. I mean, I don't think it was a bad pick at the time. I liked the pick at the time, so. Excuse me. Boston is playing great without Tatum, so that's going to be a problem next year when he is back, for sure. It might be a problem this year. So again, this is why you needed to make the move now rather than make the move later. Indiana's going to get a top 5 pick, play with Tyrese. Also, JB call for attack. Yeah, I just mentioned that. Now that leads down to 4, but the Pistons still up. So, okay, I guess that was that extra segment that I did not expect to have to do. But hey, you know, it's exciting stuff. We'll see what the rest of the trade deadline has in store for us. We already saw that Valanciunas went out. He got traded to Boston. That was the only other big move so far. But all right. So I wanted to do something more of a more definitive Super Bowl preview, because this is obviously final NFL game of the season. Oh, yeah, Jaren Jackson to Utah. Sorry. All right, let's restart the segment. Okay, wanted to do a more focused, Super Bowl preview. It's the final game of the NFL season, and I think it's between two teams where it's actually I think it's gonna be a pretty good game. I don't think this is gonna be a blowout like many people might think. I think this is gonna be a pretty good game. And yeah, so let's just go through it right now. So from the AFC, we got the New England Patriots. So first point I want to make, second-year quarterback Drake May surviving the playoffs, but frankly, had a very easy path to the big game. He really did. And this is not his fault, okay? He didn't choose to have to play the Chargers with no offensive line, or CJ Stroud throwing the ball to the wrong team, or the backup quarterback in Denver. He didn't choose that, but he is a product of it. And to be honest, he really hadn't looked that great in the playoffs with that in mind. On the other hand, he is, Drake May, that is, one of the two major contenders for the MVP. And he's had overall an incredible season. And the Pats, offensively, They don't really have one guy that's just like overly elevated. Like I think of last year's Seattle Seahawks, last year's Philadelphia Eagles, where it was Saquon Barkley just carrying that team to the Super Bowl. And then by the time they got there, they were just it was just complete outmatching the Kansas City Chiefs. In this case, it's not just Steph Diggs. It's not just Drake May. It's a little bit of everybody. It really is. I mean, this is going to be a game where I'm going to be like, who caught that? I don't know who that guy is because, just being honest, I didn't watch a whole lot of New England Patriots games. I don't think a lot of people had them on their bingo card of being a Super Bowl team, maybe a playoff team, maybe a wild card team, but not a division winner and top team coming out of the AFC. I don't think anybody did. And on that point, you got Mike Vrabel, who is obviously a culture setter. He's won in New England as a player. He knows what the standard is in New England as far as winning, and it's championships, it's Super Bowls. And I think he's got the experience, right? Like he's got a whole lot more head coaching experience in big time games compared to Mike McDaniel, Mike McDonald, not Mike McDaniel, excuse me. We'll get to him in a little bit. But out of the AFC, like this is not just some scrub AFC team that is just, gotten by the skin of their teeth. This isn't last year's Kansas City Chiefs team. This is a team that's actually pretty good. And Drake May has shown himself to be pretty good as well. And that defense has shown itself to be pretty hard to score on. Again, I understand their opponents this playoffs was not great, but they were body bagging teams. I mean, they were murdering the Jets and the Dolphins and any other bad team they played. And you got to beat those bad teams. And they obviously got themselves to the 2 seed. This is a good Patriots team. Don't let anybody pretend that this is just some, team that, they're just the schedule. It's just like you're playing NFL teams every single week. I don't care who you're playing. If you end up as the 2 seed out of your conference, you're doing something right. So now moving along to the NFC, we got the Seattle Seahawks. Now, Sam Darnold right now is a man possessed. He was haunted by ghosts in his past, and now he is haunting teams. He is the ghost. He has turned into Gengar, basically. Shout out Pokemon. And in big games, in blowouts, in close games, he's been great. Like all of the woes, all of the bugaboos about Sam Darnold as your quarterback, up to and including last year when he had a career year, have been exercised. Those demons are gone. He's not losing in the big time games. He's not playing bad in prime time. He's playing electric. I mean, they massacred that 49ers team, which granted was injured. And they played very well against the Rams there. He has a really good shot, if they win this game, to be named the Super Bowl MVP, which is crazy to think that just a few years ago, the Jets drafted this guy. Then he goes to Carolina. Then he goes to San Francisco and is a backup. Then he goes to Minnesota. And you're thinking this guy is going to win a Super Bowl MVP? And let me just say, I know this is mostly about Seahawks and the Patriots. Let me just say, if Sam Darnold wins the Super Bowl, I don't want to hear anything about Jared Goff not being able to win a Super Bowl. I don't want to hear it. Basta. No more. Anyway, back to the game. On the flip side, for Seattle, they're down a running back. No Charbonnet. Kenneth Walker is going to be carrying the load. Now, granted, I'm a Michigan State fan. I watched Kenneth Walker when he was here. He could certainly do it. Yeah, he could certainly carry a team, but obviously this team was built upon the 2 running back system with Charbonnet and with Walker both getting carries throughout the game. That's not going to help you, but Kenneth Walker's a pretty good player, so you'll be fine in some respect. And also on that point, Mike McDonald, very good coach, obviously, very the turnaround from last year's Seahawks team to this year's Seahawks team, and frankly, just the Seahawks teams of the past 5 or 10 years. Outside of obviously their Super Bowl win, it's been kind of middling. It hasn't been like really, really bad, but it also hasn't been really, really good. So the fact that he has gotten them to where they are right now is incredible. But on that point, he's only been the head coach for a couple of years. Compare that to Mike Vrabel, who was a coach back in the early or in the late 2010s. And he was winning on the Titans. This is McDonald winning in a pretty well-run organization in Seattle. But then again, this Seahawks defense is a brick wall. Devin Witherspoon, DeMarcus Lawrence. Those are just the big name players, but it's just a lot of human beings. It's a lot of just death, basically. It's not really the Legion of Boom exactly. It's not quite, Cam Chancellor and Richard Sherman, but it's pretty good. Like Mike McDonald, obviously he came in, he was a defensive-minded coach, and he has maintained a strong defense in Seattle. And Drake May is going to have a tough time with that. He's had to deal with a lot of tough defenses. He's managed to get the W's, but this is going to be easily the toughest challenge yet. All of that being said, who's going to win? That's the big question. That's the question at the top of the name of the show. Who do I think is going to win? I am going to take the Seattle Seahawks. I think that as much as the Patriots have been good, and as good as Drake May has been as a quarterback, you can see that he does struggle against these top defenses, as all quarterbacks do, of course. And I do think that Sam Darnold will finally break the everlasting curse on ginger quarterbacks. He's going to do it. If you have children, if you have a young boy who's a ginger, first of all, I'll pray for you. No, that's a joke. Am I joking? Sam Darnold will be a beacon of hope for that little boy to one day grow up to be an NFL quarterback who can win the Super Bowl. And it would be just like a perfect ending, I think, to the season. Going into the year, I think everybody had a certain idea of how this season was going to go, who was going to be good, all of that. And the perfect irony to me would be that Sam Darnold, on a team that didn't make the playoffs last year, would win the Super Bowl against who else but an old friend from the AFC, the New England Patriots. So, game is this Sunday. Everybody knows it. Everybody's going to be watching it. I'm really hoping this is a good game. I don't think it's going to be a blowout, like I said. I very well could see this game being low scoring up until the fourth quarter when things just go all hell breaks loose. Basically, you got May and Darnold duking it out. I think the Seahawks are going to win. I want the Seahawks to win. I think if the Patriots win, it'll be like the Megamind meme. It's you saved us, more like under new management. So hope everybody enjoys the Super Bowl. Just hope that this is just, not the beginning of another New England takeover. That's what I hope. So true. So true. I will say, I know people make fun of the call, but I'm not saying the call was right. It wasn't right. But what are the odds that he's going to throw an interception there, right? The interception is goal line interceptions hardly ever happen. Malcolm Butler never played another game of any meaning after that. I'm just saying, all right? It is a little bit more fluky than people make it out to be. Let's see. Patriots do play the Lions in 2026. That's true. I believe that's a road game for us, or maybe we have it I guess it's either road or at home. Patriots decided to do the Star Wars sequels when nobody saw them coming. Some of the Patriots return. It's so true. So true. I read this. I was like, what does ROS stand for? And then I remember, Rise of Skywalker. Gosh, those were just terrible. You know what? Before we get into the next segment, those movies were so offensively terrible. Just offensively terrible. And as bad as I'm not one of these prequel apologists. I don't think the prequels were really that good either. But as bad as they were, well, gosh darn it, at least they were not just slop. At least they were or they weren't corporate slop. They were a weird, eccentric guy slop. It might not have been a good vision, but it was his vision. It wasn't some, made in a lab, made with a bunch of, what's the word? A team of writers, 100 million people, all trying to perfectly market. No, the prequels have a little bit of spunk. They got a little bit of personality. Those new movies have no staying power. They have no personality, and everybody hates them. At least some people like the prequels. Nobody likes the sequels. Not one human being likes the sequels. Anyway, sorry. Just wanted to go on that rant there. Farther we get away from 2021 makes me realize how much K9 and Jaden Reed carried MSU. Yeah. And Jalen Naylor, for that matter. He's also in the NFL, playing pretty darn good for the Minnesota Vikings. The irony is McDonald was Michigan DC in the 2021 game. That's actually a good point. Very good point. Also, Seattle will end the should have handed it off talk. Well, to be fair, on this game, Michigan State was running the no huddle offense, so Michigan couldn't get our signal, so they wouldn't know what defense to run. Anyway, the Pats winning more of a back to the old ways. The Empire never did. Winning will be more. I see. I see. I misread that. Under new management is Drake Bay is the new Tom Brady. I mean, like, I think they're different kinds of quarterbacks. May does have a little bit more, I'd say probably a lot more mobility than Brady ever did. At least in his second year. This is a little bit different. Brady won, what was it? It was like a rookie, right? Or at least he was a backup to start the year. He was drafted to be that guy. You know, obviously they kind of kept him behind, Jacoby Brissett, and it wasn't working with Gerard Mayo. They had to get a new coach. It was a whole thing. At least with Brady, it was like, okay, he was drafted really late, and he was a backup, and starter had to get hurt. And then even in that playoff run, Drew Bledsoe came in briefly when Brady went down, and then by the time the Super Bowl happened, Brady was the starter, and, well, Bledsoe is an afterthought, unfortunately. He was a really good quarterback when he was on, and that's what's so funny. If he never gets hurt, they probably could still win the Super Bowl without Tom Brady, but you got to think, he never gets hurt. Brady probably never gets a shot because Bledsoe and them, they probably win the Super Bowls that they would have won with Brady. But that injury kind of shook him to the point where he was never the same, and Brady was clearly, at that point, he just had a better command of the offense. And he was already good. So it is what it is. All right. So right now the Pistons are up 5. So that's good. Okay. Somehow Isaiah. Oh, no, there it is. I was like, somehow Isaiah Stewart. I love how the FanDuel little thing, it says breaking news, and it's just like, it just shows the Kevin Huerter trade that happened like several hours ago. Okay. Speaking of the All-Star, because Jalen Durden was named to an All-Star. When is the All-Star game in the NBA? I did see that. I'm not really happy about it because I pay for FanDuel Sports Network, and I guess like I'm fine with it if there's an alternative where I can still watch the Tigers with what I've already got. Here's my problem. Why can't they just be on regular TV? This is I have a YouTube TV subscription. Why are my local teams not just on that? Why do I got to watch through FanDuel? So I hope that the Tigers come up with a TV deal that just adds that channel to local markets, including YouTube TV. Because otherwise, I just don't know I don't know how I'll watch the team. I might have to just listen to the radio, which stinks. Like, we'll see. I mean, obviously they're the ways away, and the Tigers will be playing national broadcast too. But I mean, baseball to me, like, this is, especially in the summertime, that when you get into the dog days of August, man, that's all you got. Like, they have to get this figured out, or else they're going to lose people, especially with this Tarek Skubal nonsense. Like, last thing you want is for your team to be literally unwatchable. And I don't mean unwatchable like they're bad. I mean, literally, you cannot watch them because they're not on any TV network. They're on MLB. Maybe I'll be able to get those games on YouTube TV. If that's the case, then then fine, whatever. I don't care. As long as I get Jason Benetti and Andy Dirks in the booth, I'm fine. I'm fine. All right. So before we actually get into the MSU stuff, I do want to briefly talk about the Red Wings here. So before last night, they had won just one of their last 5 games going into the month of February. So now they've won 2 out of 6, which is a little bit better, but still not great. And I want to check the standings really quick. NHL standings. Let's just take a look. And I prefer the NHL's official website here. So right now, the Red Wings are still securely in second place. Granted, they played one more game than Montreal, who's behind them by 2 points. So if Montreal wins, they would at least have matched the Red Wings in points. Now, the other thing to be concerned about is in the wild card, because you got Boston, who's down just 3 points of you. And they've played 2 less games than you. So if Buffalo, did I say Buffalo or did I say Boston? If Buffalo wins the next 2, they get 4 points. They match your total games. Red Wings are going to get one more game in here. But if the Red Wings get the win, they get 74 points. If the Sabres win all 3, they would be ahead by 1 point. There's a world where by the time we get to the break, I'm assuming all teams go to 58 games at the break. Maybe I'm wrong about that. But there's a world where the Sabres jump the Red Wings for second place, and the Red Wings are entering that break as a wild card team. I'm not saying that's what's going to happen. And luckily that win last night really helped stop the bleeding. And it was an impressive win to go out on the road and shut out a team in their house that you just shut out. So good stuff for them. But look, you're entering the month of February, and you're going to have, let me just take a look at their schedule. Let's just take a look. Okay. I'm not here to buy tickets, NHL.com. Not here to buy tickets. So they'll get this game on Wednesday against Utah on the road. They'll come back at the end of the month. They'll have Ottawa and then the Hurricanes on the 26th and 28th, respectively. Then in March, your first week of March, you got Nashville, Vegas, Florida, New Jersey. Nashville and New Jersey, okay. Vegas and Florida, those are a little concerning. You'll also get, after that, Florida, Tampa Bay, Dallas. There's a world, guys. Like, I'm not saying that this is what's going to happen, but this Red Wings team has been good, but not great. And especially if they don't make a move at the trade deadline, if they don't add on to this team that is playing well but could definitely use an upgrade, I'm just telling you. We've seen it happen before. I've danced this dance before. And I don't want it to be true. I would like to have both the Red Wings and the Pistons in the playoffs at the same time, and then the Tigers starting off their season. I would like that. But I've danced this dance before. Just telling you. Detroit FC, but I'm not watching soccer, dog. I appreciate that you are into it, but I'm not watching it. I don't watch any soccer. You couldn't pay me to watch soccer. Actually, you could probably pay me. You know what? How about this? If FIFA or Fox or whoever wants to give me a sponsorship to advertise for the World Cup and I got to watch it, sure. You got to pay me a significant chunk of change to pay me like a few $1,000s. Like, and when I say a few, I mean maybe like $10,000. Pay me $10,000, sure. I'll do it. I'll dance a jiggy for that. Dance a jiggy. What year is this? All right. Okay, let's wrap up the show with this, just because I have been dreading wanting to talk about it. So, Michigan State basketball, this past Friday night, I'll just say it's a pitiful showing. Pitiful. You lose to Michigan by double digits, despite it being only, I believe, a 3-point swing. I believe it was -2.5 for Michigan. So that stinks. And while I do think that Michigan State is still a good team, Michigan showed me that MSU is just not good enough this year to win the Big Ten or to go any further than where they were. And I know to some extent it is quote unquote early. I know it's funny saying that. We're already into February. We're only a month out from when the tournament starts. But it is still kind of early in the way that Michigan State typically has these runs. Usually they get hot late in February into March. They go to the Big Ten tournament. And look, Michigan State is not technically out of it. They do get to play Michigan again later in the year, granted on the road. But this was not a good game. It just wasn't. You know, the thing that bothers me is the weakness on this team is pretty much exactly the same weakness that Michigan State has had for the past, 5 years, 6 years, ever since Cassius Winston left, basically. And the issue is this. There isn't a whole lot of scorers on this team. There just isn't. You know, when Yaxel Lendenberg for Michigan was not scoring early on in that game, everyone else was coming in to pick up the slack. They had plenty of guys that were coming in and picking up the slack. You know, Mara comes to mind. He was shooting pretty well early on in the game. But when Fears wasn't scoring for MSU, nobody was. They were going on droughts. Carson Cooper was playing like a traffic cone out there. And he very well could have cost us this game. And probably did cost us this game. But the problem with Michigan State is that we're kind of a double-edged sword. You got one of the best coaches, Tom Izzo, and I don't want to hear any Tom Izzo slander. Now, as not good as that game was, and that goes on him and preparation and all that, and team, assembly and all that, understood. Don't give me this Michigan State needs to move on from Tom Izzo. Okay? Tom Izzo will move on at some point, but be very, very careful about having a Hall of Fame head coach move on and just get better. You're probably going to get worse. Statistically speaking, most coaches do not make the Hall of Fame, which means you're probably going to get worse. Probably. I mean, ask Michigan how it felt to move on from Beeline. It didn't feel good. They had to go through the Juwan Howard the early year or the late years. Okay, that wasn't fun. That was about a half a decade worth of bad basketball for the most part. But the thing with Tom Izzo is, as good as he is, he's not adapting to the times in many ways. He does not fundamentally seem to believe in going out and buying players in the portal. And I don't really like this. I don't like the practice. I prefer recruiting and developing. I prefer what Izzo does. The problem is the winning formula is right there for you, and you're seeing it in Michigan. Dusty May went out there and spent a gazillion dollars bringing together this team. You look at his starting lineup. I remember watching the game on Friday. I was like, I don't know who any of these guys are. None of them were on the team. And it's crazy to think, Yaxel Lendenberg, let's be honest with ourselves. Most Michigan fans didn't know who he was last year. I didn't know who he was last year. And I find myself as probably one of the more, I was pretty invested in college basketball last year. So for Izzo, we know that he only has a few years left. We know that you're not going to be here for another 10 years. You're just not. You're 71 years old. Tom is going to, and eventually it's just going to get to him. He's going to be tired. He's going to be bored of it. So for Izzo, you're going to have to take a little bit of a leap. You're going to have to say, you know what? Screw it. Let's bring in the best transfer portal guys. Let's bring them all in. Our entire starting five will be transfer portal guys. Will be the top players from there. And we're going to go out and try to win a national championship and go out on top. The other thing, and this is a good point. Michigan State's got one of the top recruiting class next year. But here's the thing. As good as those kids could be, and I use the word could, they're not here now. And there's no guarantee they will be massive contributors. I mean, for all of the, five-star recruits that work out, there's also the Xavier Bookers of the world. Remember him? Remember him? He was supposed to be this star player for us. And what did he do? He was beaten out by a guy who was half his size who could shoot from three, namely Jace Richardson, who was not a five-star recruit. And again, Izzo is an elite recruiter. He's an elite developer, and he's an elite coach. Here's your problem. You have no number two right now. You haven't won a national championship in 25 years. And you haven't been to a Final Four since, 2018? 2019? The one thing that I don't want for Tom Izzo is to go out like some of these really bad coaches in olden time for other teams, where that was what I was worried about the last few years before this year and this past year about Izzo, was that this team was just going to falter and it was going to be ugly, but he was never going to go. He has the capability to bring in guys. Everybody in the college basketball world knows who he is. Everybody. So why not use that acumen to help bring in some players? You're telling me that Draymond Green can't help you bring in players? Or Magic Johnson? Or Jaren Jackson Jr.? I would say Miles Bridges, but, the other problems with him. Point is, Michigan State is and will be, as far as I'm concerned, always one of the top college basketball schools in the country. You don't have players like Magic Johnson and coaches like Tom Izzo by accident. It's because you really invested into it. And Michigan State is a great basketball school. They have a great basketball program. They just need to do a little bit more than what they're doing, especially in the transfer portal. Now, again, Tom Izzo could completely redeem himself. He could go undefeated down the stretch. He could beat Minnesota tomorrow. He could beat Illinois over the weekend. And we will have forgotten about the fact that we lost to Michigan. He could beat Michigan later in the year. But just do a little bit more than what you're doing. Cooper and Kohler as your best secondary players next to Fears, not doing enough. Tanner Scott, fine player. You're not going to win a whole lot of games if he's your second best scorer. Kurt Hang, love the name, terrible shooter. Or at the very least, inconsistent. So, we'll see. Sometimes late in seasons, guys start to turn it on. Jace Richardson didn't turn it on until February either. So, we'll see if somebody on this team wants to step up and be that secondary guy next to Jeremy Fears. But I don't want to say that because we lost to Michigan that the season's over and that we're just terrible. I don't think that's true. But I also don't think it is a nothing. And I think some of it is on Tom, some of it is on the players, and some of it, well, maybe it's never going to change. I mean, it is Tom Izzo. He's done it a certain way for so long. Hard to say. So, that's a depressing segment. All right. Whoa, we got breaking news. Hold on, where's my breaking news? There it is. Breaking news. The Cleveland Cavaliers have traded for James Harden. They are sending two-time All-Star Darius Garland to the Clippers, per Shams Charania. Well, folks. Oh, and they're also sending a second-round pick. And that's it. So, let's see. Clippers are trading James Harden to the Cleveland Cavaliers for Darius Garland and a second-round pick. Well, folks, hold on. I just got another breaking news. The Cleveland Cavaliers have been eliminated from the NBA Finals. Why are people still trading for this bomb? I'm sorry. Let me just pull up. I can't stand James Harden. Every time I look at his face, I don't like his face. Let me pull up James Harden right now. Okay? I know that I'm sure that all the trade, everything's going to be all about the trade. Yes, understood. This guy. Oh, but he's averaging more points in his career. Don't care. All right? This guy, everywhere he goes, he will go off, but then just float away. Just like he was never there. And let me just point out something to you. Ever since he left Houston, do you want to know how many times he's been an All-Star? Do you want to know? 2. He's been an All-Star twice since leaving Houston. Think about that for just a second. He's been an All-Star 2 times since being on Houston. 2 times. Absolutely crazy. I cannot stand him. I don't care that he was an all-NBA player the year prior. He is 36 years old. He is not getting any better. He will fail in Cleveland. He will be a huge reason why they fail. I guarantee it. Because he can't play defense. He's never been able to play defense. Anyway, sorry. Just wanted to go on a James Harden rant. Izzo is an anti-transfer portal. He just goes after guys from small schools. Tyson Walker coming from Northeastern is big. Yes, I mean, I guess I should be clear. I don't think he's anti-transfer portal, but I do think he is anti-big transfer. Like I think that much is clear. You know, Yaxel Lindenberg would have looked real nice in green and white. You know, it would have been a lot better for us than Carson Cooper or Jackson Kohler, but he likes his guys. And I don't blame him for liking his guys. His guys can be pretty good, and he's got a good record of holding on to his guys and them developing into good players. But you need guys who are going to play in the NBA. You had one last year with Jace Richardson. He went in the first round, and he's currently on the Orlando Magic. I don't know how he's playing. Let me actually look that up. How was he playing? He's not playing that well. But he's shooting 49% from the field. All right? He's played in 34 games. He's a pretty effective shooter, at least. Maybe if he got more time, he's only playing 11 minutes a game. 11 minutes a game, and he's got, what is it? What did they say, 5 points? That's not bad. It's not terrible. Anyway, he's young. I'm sure he could develop into something later. Anyhow, you don't have the kinds of players that in big trap, like we haven't had Jaren Jackson in a while. We haven't had Miles Bridges in a while. Those are the kind of guys that you're going to need if you want to make a deep run. Now, granted, understood. He didn't go deep when he had those guys. Understood. But you're not going to go deep. If you're not going deep with those guys, you're definitely not going to go deep without those guys. So, Divine Ugochukwu is first transfer to Power 5 school. Yeah, he's been fine. Like, he's okay. He's not, blowing you away. He's got moments. But he hasn't really had his moment. The Rutgers game, he had a good shot there, tie that game up, go to overtime, and get the win. He had a good thing there. But overall, yeah, he's not changing the game. All right, let's just be clear. You also got Joey Hauser. That's true. I couldn't stand Joey Hauser. I know this is unpopular among Michigan State fans. I couldn't stand Joey Hauser. Every time I watched him, it was either I was going to get Steph Curry or I was going to get like Ish Smith. I just couldn't stand it. All right. And that was also, it was like Michigan State was middling. They were barely making the tournament. They weren't winning the Big Ten. I couldn't stand it. I hated it. Never bring up the name Joey Hauser in this house, especially when the other Hauser was so much better. Should have gotten him. He's playing for Boston right now. Should have had him. Anyway. Well, that's the show. So I apologize for going live a little bit later here. I was kind of running behind on a few things. So my bad. But look, they're just showing it right now. The James Harden trade. That's crazy, man. He's going to the Cleveland Cavaliers. The Cavs have been eliminated from postseason contention. Isn't that crazy? Anyway, appreciate everybody for stopping by and listening in. So we'll be back next week. We'll talk about the results of the Super Bowl. I'm sure it'll be a good game, like I said. If you enjoyed, please hit the like, please hit the subscribe button. We're 50 subscribers away from 500. Come on now. I want to get to 500. That would be awesome. If we could get to 500, by the end of, by the start of baseball season, we can get to 500 subscribers. That'd be awesome. So please hit the subscribe button, share the show, do it all. Share the show, like, comment, all of it. We'll be back next Tuesday, break it all down. Clips will be uploaded over the next couple of days. I'll see you guys next Tuesday, and have a great rest of your night. See ya. Bye-bye. Goodbye.